I was saying, we're going to be designing the entire newsletter. Make sure that you first download your Student Matters assets right here, and we're going to be going through pages 1 through 4 straight through. Now, I'm going to do this rather quickly because I don't want this to be a really, really long video. So it's just going to go over how to put this together. So let's go into InDesign and make our new document. It's going to be 8.5 by 11. It's going to be 4 pages, and we want to make sure that we check the facing pages. There needs to be 3 columns with a 1/4 inch gutter. So 3 columns, we're going to change the gutter to 0.25. The margins need to be 0.5 on the top, the left, and the right, but 0.75 on the bottom. So you're going to want to break the link, so that way for the bottom you can change it to 0.75, and there isn't going to be a gutter or a bleed, I'm sorry. So make sure you take off the bleed and then hit create. And just take a quick look through and make sure everything looks right. You'll notice I'm in Essentials Classic, so I'm going to just reset that so it should look the same for everyone. And let's go in and open up that zip file. So each of the articles, there is a doc file to copy and paste the text. But the very first thing that we're going to do is you're going to want to look at the actual mock-up that we're making. It needs to just look exactly like this. So I am going to open up my Pages tab, and I'm also going to open up my Layers tab. I'm going to create a new layer, and I want to drag it to the bottom, and I'm going to rename it Original. And this is going to be a template layer where I'm going to place the template of the PDF on this layer. So let's do a file place. We're going to go in and grab that PDF that shows what it should look like, the NL mockup. And I want to click on Show Import Options because that's going to allow me to grab each page individually. So for page 1, just hit OK, and we're just going to click. Don't scale this, just click and add it to the page. And make sure that you get the newsletter within the margins, the pink margins. And then we will scroll down to page 2, and we're just going to do this for all 4 pages first. File place. Again, NL mockup. This is where clicking the Show Import Options is going to fix this. We want to scroll over to page 2 and hit OK. Again, just click on the page to add it. And you'll just need to move it up where it needs to go. And the easiest way to tell is that the line down here for the folio and the headline is right at the top of the margin. But you can see I'm at 0.0132 and 0.1806 on my XY coordinates. And then we'll do a file place again. We're going to grab page 3. Hit OK. And drop page 3 in. And this time I'm just going to line it up based on the right-hand side. Makes it a little easier. And then page 4. And again, I'm going to line this up on the right-hand side. Perfect. All right. Inside of here, there is a style sheet setting. So we want to set our style sheets. We're just going to follow what we are given, which is great. We don't have to come up with style sheets on our own. We can just follow what they give us. So going back in, I am going to lock my originals layer because I want to work on layer 1. And I'm going to make sure that I open up my style sheet. So I want to go to Window, Styles, and open up my paragraph styles because that is where I'm going to set these different styles. So first things first, I need to have a baseline grid to 15 points starting at 0 relative to the top margin. So in InDesign, Preferences, I want to go down to Grids, and it's going to start at 0 relative to the top margin, increment every 15 points, and I'm going to change the threshold to 60 and unclick Grids and Back, hit OK. And then I want to go to View, Grids and Guides, and I'm going to make sure it's showing my baseline grid is on so I can see it. Next, I need to have a body copy style. That's going to be 12 over 15 point type with Times Roman or Times New Roman, whichever one you have on your machine. So going back in, I'm going to make a new style, double click on the left-hand side of it, and I'm going to name it body. It needs to be Times New Roman, 12 over 15. All lines need to be aligned with the baseline grid. So let's go to indents and spacing, left alignment, align to grid, all lines, and hit OK. Next, I'm going to make my next style. This one's going to be the bullets. So it's going to be based off of my body copy, but I'm going to add bullets. So go, double click, make sure it says based on body. We're going to go down to bullets and numbering, the list type, bullets, and you can see the characters bullets. Then we're going to put in a left indent of 0.25. We'll tab. The first line should be negative 0.25. And tab. And it's just going to, you can leave the tab position like that. It's going to clear it out and hit OK. Oops, I forgot to rename it bullets. Double click, name it bullets, and hit OK. Now the next one is going to be a drop cap. It's also going to be based on the body. So let's either select body and hit the plus sign, or double check and make sure it's based on body and you don't have it based on bullets. I'm going to name this drop cap. And again, the drop cap is going to be 2 lines down and 1 character over. So we're going to go down to drop caps and nested styles. And we want to say 2 lines and 1 character over and hit OK. Next, we need a subheader. So that's going to be the body, and it's going to be 14 point type, bold, and then red. So again, click on body, double click, double check that it's still on body. Under basic character formats, you want to change this to bold, and you want to change it to 14 point type. And this is called subheader. And hit OK. Now next, you can just click on basic paragraph and hit the plus sign. It'll kind of clear out the style that we had there. And this is where we're going to start to do our headers. So header 1, we're going to name it header 1. This is going to be either Helvetica Myriad Pro or Arial Bold, whichever one you have on your machine. Helvetica Bold's going to be the style or the font that matches the best. So if you have it, I would use that. Bold, and we're going to make it 32 over 34 point type. Under indents and spacing, make sure it's not aligned to the grid. Under character color, we're going to make this blue. Now, you can go with the default dark blue that is right here and hit OK. And I just realized we forgot to make our subheader red. So let's go back into that one. Under character color, let's change it to red and hit OK. Back up to header 1. We're going to make header 2, which is going to be 24 over 25 point and also blue. So we're going to hit the plus sign. Again, make sure it's based on header 1. This one is going to be 24 over 25. 24 over 25. And just double check again that it's not aligned to the grid and that it's still the blue color. And hit OK. Whoops. And header 2. And then we're going to do header 3. So this one's going to be 18 over 19 point, but red. So basic character formats, 18, whoops, for some reason I changed it to light. Let's make sure that's bold, over 19, and red. Where'd you go? Red. And hit OK. And just double check the header 2 is bold. Oh, see, for some reason, bold. And bold. Okay. Don't know why it defaulted to light. All right, so we have in all of our styles. So we can close that out. Now what we're going to do first is we're going to deal with our master pages. Let's just move our styles over to the left over here. And we're going to go to the Pages tab. And we want to double click on a master page. And you'll notice that there are 2 master pages. See? The left master page is going to affect page 2 and page 4. The right master page is going to affect page 1 and page 3. So we need to keep that in mind. So let's go to a master page, and you'll notice that our example is missing, but that's okay. What we can do is we can just replace it by doing a File, Place, and we'll grab page 3 and page 4. And we'll just put page 3 over here. Again, make sure you have it lined up well. Whoops, page 3 should go over here. And it should actually be page 2 and page 3 that I'm putting on, not page 3 and page 4. So page 3, and then File, Place, and we'll put page 2. And this is so we can see where that folio needs to go. So let's just zoom in. I'm going to draw a text box right here. And I am going to go to header 3. And see, and it's still a little bit big. I'm just going to type in Student Matters and bring the font size down to 10-point type. And I want to make students blue. So going over to my swatches panel. And I'm going to leave the word matters red. And I can just leave that right there. And I want to note that it's at the Y 10.34 because that's how far down it is. I want to make sure that those 2 text boxes are lined up. And then for this one, I'm going to go and just change my font to Times New Roman, just regular, and 12-point type. And I'm going to make it right justified. And I'm going to put in January 2020. Change the font color to black. Change that to 4. And I'm going to need to open this up just a little bit more. And I'm going to do a space, hit Option 8, that makes a bullet point, hit space, and then I want to do type, insert special character, markers, current page number. And it's going to put an A in because I'm on the A master page. And then what I can do is delete this so I can see a little bit better. And make sure I'm lined up with my margin on each side. And make sure these are lined up. And then I'm going to use my line tool. And I'm just going to draw a line along the bottom of the margin. And change it to 3-point. And I'm going to change the color to that blue and move it down just a smidge and zoom out. Now you can see I basically have the same thing going on over here. It's just a little bit different. You know, Student Matters is on the right and the date is on the left. So I'm going to make a copy of this by holding down the Option key. So I click on Student Matters and I hold down the Option key and I'm going to start to drag over. And when I get it to pretty much where I want it to be, I'm going to hold down Shift as well. And it's going to line it right up where I need it to be. And you can see I just didn't have this lined up correctly. So let's click on Student Matters, go to my Type tool, and I just want this to be aligned right. And then I'm going to do the same thing with this one. Holding down the Option key, I'm going to click and drag. Once I get over here, I'm going to hit Shift. It's going to line it up vertically correctly. And I am going to do left justified. And just change that to 0.5. And delete this again. Now I need to take the page number and the bullet point and move that to the front. So I'm going to do a Command X with it selected. And I'll just put my cursor right at the front and hit Command V. And then do the same thing. Just kind of select that, Command X, Command V. Just to set it up this way. And then I can do the same thing even with the line. I can make a copy of it by holding down the Option key and dragging and then hold down Shift. Get that line over there. And I'm going to save this. I'm going to do a File, Save As. And make sure I put it in where I need it to be. And I'm just going to name this assignment 4 right now because we're doing both together. All right, close up my swatches, go over to my pages. I'm going to double click on page 1. And you can see that I've added in the folio there. It's there. But I don't need the folio on page 4. So there's an easy way to fix this. Double click on page 4 in the Pages panel and see where there's that one called None. Drag None and drop it on top of page 4 and it gets rid of that folio because we don't want it on page 4. So let's take a look at page 4 first because it's the easiest one to do. Again, make sure you're on the correct layer and I'm going to draw a box with my rectangle frame tool. And I'm going to do a File, Place, and I'm going to place the graduation ad in there. Just click Open and click OK. Then I'm going to draw a text box at the top of that first line right there, right to the margin. And I'm going to make sure that I'm on body copy. And I'm going to go in and I'm going to grab my mail panel information doc file. And I'm just going to copy and paste it in. And then just kind of bump it over till it looks right. Looks right. You can turn off originals for a second. Perfect. Page 4 is done. Let's save it. Next, I'm going to go up to page 1. And again, going to draw my rectangle frame tool. I'm going to do a file place. And I am going to place the Student Matters header and hit open, hit OK. And that gets placed in there. And if you want to make sure it's in there because it's hard to see when we're working over the originals layer, just turn the originals layer off and on. Now, the next thing that I want to do before I put any of the text on the page, I want to draw the rectangle for this cyber tip area, and I want to place both of these images in and the dots for the table of contents. So let's go to my rectangle tool first and make sure you're on layer 1. And sometimes some people have an easier time putting this on a different layer, this rectangle. So why don't we try doing that? Let's click on originals and hit the plus sign so it puts a layer in between layer 1 and original. And layer 3, we're going to name it rectangles. Again, just name it something that's easy to remember. And let's draw the rectangle right there. And the color is going to be, there's going to be a red border on it, just a 1-point border. And you're going to use the blue, but change the tint to 20%. And make sure the border is at 2 points so you can see it. Then in the layer, you can turn that off real quick and you can still see what's supposed to be underneath it. We'll go back to layer 1 and we can draw the rectangle using the rectangle frame tool. For this image right here, just drop the rectangle and then we'll draw in this image right here. And we can place both of those. So let's do a file place. And this is study time. Study time, that's page 2. This is how to succeed. So let's open that up. I'm just pressing the space bar so I can see the image. Hit OK. And we want to go to Object, Fitting, and we want to fill the frame proportionally. And it'll place it in at the size we need it. Then we'll click on this one. This is part of the cyber tip. So we're going to do File, Place, Cyber Tip, hit open, hit OK. And we're going to go to Object, Fitting, and again, we're going to fill the frame proportionally. So we've got our images in. Next, either using the line tool or the pen tool. If you're going to use the line tool, make sure you hold down Shift. Draw our line, going right across, and change it to 2 point. And you'll see I still have it as blue. Let's go over to stroke. We want to change that to dotted. And the swatches, make sure you're on the border color. Change it to red. And we'll move it down a little. I think it needs to be possibly, 3. 3 points should be fine. And leave that. And while we're on it, why don't we just add all of our images in? That way we can do all of the text at once. So again, make sure you're on the right layer, which would be layer 1. And we're going to draw our rectangle frame tool for this image on page 2. Our rectangle frame for this image on page 2. Delete that. For this image on page 2. For this image on page 2. And then I'm going to turn on really quickly my rectangles. And on this rectangles layer, I'm going to draw in this rectangle right here. So again, using my rectangle tool, draw that in. And it's going to be the same exact color as my rectangle up here. So with it selected with the black arrow tool, what I can do is go down to my eyedropper tool and just eyedrop that rectangle. place it in. And then again, I'm going to turn off. Why didn't you do that? Come on. There we go. Well, you're showing you're doing it, but it doesn't seem to be grabbing it for some reason today. 2-point, I can remember what it is. It's 2-point and blue 20%. There we go. And pages or layers, and turn off that layer real quick. All right. So let's place our 2 study time images. File, place, and again, I've selected the rectangle first. Study time 1. I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, Fill the frame proportionally, and then Edit or File, Place. And this one's Study time 2. I'm going to go to Object, Fitting, Fill the frame proportionally, and then File, Place. This one is Healthy Snacking. And Object, Fitting, Fill the frame proportionally, and File, Place, Healthy Snacking 2, and Object, Fitting, Fill the frame proportionally. And again, let's save. So you should at this point have all of your images placed. You should have both of the rectangle color boxes placed, and page 4 should be done. So I have a meeting I have to go to. When we come back, we're going to add the text in, and then we're done. So where we left off was we'd added in all of our images, and we had added in our rectangles. So if we turn off our originals layer and we turn on our rectangles in layer 1, we can see where we are at. So we've got our page numbers in, we have all of our images in, and page 4 is done. So we're really on the right track here. So let's turn the originals back on for a second. And before we start even importing our text in, we're going to draw out our text boxes. So let's start on page 1 and figure out how many text boxes and where those text boxes need to go. So I'm going to use my text tool and draw the first one for that headline up here. Then I need 2 text boxes, one for each of these columns right here. So here's the first one. And here is the second one. Then I need a text box for my table of contents. And I need a text box. And notice how I'm not going edge to edge right here. I need one for my cyber tip and for the actual article in here. And I don't want to go right to the edge of that rectangle because I want to give a little bit of room there. Bring it down a little bit. And for each of these, you might want to select them and just make sure that they're set to body copy, because if they're set to header 1, it's going to be really big text that goes in there when you copy and paste it in. And you can just click on the body before you go and draw your next text box. And again, page 2, I'm going to draw a text box right here for that headline. And then I need three columns of text over here. So I can just go right from margin to margin. 1. And don't forget to leave that gutter on the inside. And it can be a little bit hard to see what you're doing, so if you need to turn off the originals just to draw in the text boxes to make sure that you've got them in the right space, you can do that. And then again in here, leaving some space, don't go right up to the border. So I need one for healthy snacking, a text box. And then for this first paragraph, kind of centered in the rectangle there, not from edge to edge. I want to give a little bit of breathing room. And for this text box, I'm going to try to line it up right to here. And this one right here. And we don't need one on page 4. So we've got all the text boxes in. Now, the only thing that we need to do before we start putting the text in is we need to look at how this image kind of offsets this text box right here. So we need to add a little bit of a text wrap to it. So we're going to go up to Window, and we're going to go to Text Wrap, and we're going to click on Wrap Around Bounding Box. And we want to add a text wrap to the right-hand side. So it's down here. And see how it starts to, you can see that little shadow of a line? If we go to 0.125, oops, and unlock it, we only want it on the right side. There we go. Now you can see how it adds that wrap in right there. And that's going to bump that text over like we need it to. So let's open up our first article, How to Succeed in a Difficult Class. Which I always have to make a joke, like this class. And then I'm like, it's not really hard, don't worry. And no one ever likes my jokes. All right, so let's grab our headline first, How to Succeed in a Difficult Class. And before we do anything, we're just going to start copying and pasting the text in. And we'll worry about putting all of our styles together afterwards. So when we copy the text into this first text box right here in column 1, let's turn off our original so we can see what's going on. You can see that it doesn't flow over into this text box, but I need it to flow. So what you're going to want to do is click with your black arrow tool, click on that little red plus sign right there, and then click into this text box. And that is going to fix that. And we'll worry about this in a second. You might need to drag this down just a little bit on both sides. Move this down just a smidge. Perfect. And we can turn on our originals again. Next, let's grab the table of contents. So just copy and paste everything. And again, we'll worry about the styles after. And we can close out the ones that we're done with. Then we need cyber tip aware. So cyber aware tip. And we're going to grab just the headline first, copy it. And then we'll go in and grab the rest of it. Copy it. And again, you can save this after you add the text in for page 1. And we'll just go through and add the text into pages 2 and 3 as well. Close that. So this one's get more out of your study time. So that's the study time text. So we'll grab just the headline first, copy it, put it up there. and then grab the rest of it. Oops. There we go, copy that. And the same thing's going to happen over here. We're going to need to link these text boxes. So let's go to our black arrow tool and click on the text box, the first column, click on the plus sign, click in here, then do the same thing on the second text box. Click on the plus sign, click in here, and then the last one, click on the plus sign, and click over here. And again, we'll worry about fixing things to make them fit correctly after. Let's turn our originals back on, grab our last article, which is healthy snacking. And grab the headline. Paste it in. And then grab that other article or other paragraph, the first paragraph, paste that in right here. And the last one, which is a list, and this might be easier for you to turn the list off in Microsoft Word before you copy it. So you can just click on the 1, 2, 3, 4, but if not, you can just delete those out. So copy and paste that in here. And then one more time we got to do this. We have to link these two text boxes. So selection tool, select that text box, click on the little plus sign, and add the rest of it in over here. And turn on our originals. So we've now added in all of our text. All we have to do, because we've set up our style sheets, we just need to apply the styles to it. So let's click on the first text box, and this is going to be header 1. So let's click on header 1, go in with our type tool, and just manually add a return at the word in to move it to the next line. Now the first paragraph, I'm going to turn this off for a second. The first paragraph of do you find yourself, and I just had to move this up a little bit. Do you find yourself? That is our drop cap that we made. So what you need to do is place your cursor, just place it right within that paragraph. You don't even need to select the whole paragraph, and click drop cap, and it will add your drop cap in. Now this is the only part that's going to be a little weird. Microsoft Word added in the bullets for us, but we made a bullet style. So we need to delete the bullet points that Microsoft Word put in because we're going to use the ones in InDesign. So that is this full paragraph. So now you want to select from outcome or from talk to outcome after you've deleted those bullets, and just click on the bullets. And you're going to need to make this, bring this up a little bit so it lies right there. And you may need to delete this return right here and this return right here to get the text to fit correctly. And turn your originals back on. And next, we're going to turn on the rectangles in the originals. But hold on one second. I'm just turning the rectangles off just so I can remember what's going on here. So for Cyber Tip Aware, that's also header 1. Just open this up more. Or maybe it's header 2. Hold on. This one is header 2, but you need to manually make this centered. So just select the text and center it. And then just like we did for the first article, the first paragraph is the drop cap. The second paragraph has that header 3 in it, or I'm sorry, subheader in it. And then that should be it for that one. Perfect. So let's do the table of contents next. So we're going to manually select just table of contents, and we're going to do this one's header 3. And then you're going to need to add in for the body. Might need to move the text box up a little bit. There we go. So to get the numbers with the dots that go with the table of contents, you will notice that they are not in there. We need to add in tabs and leaders for this. So I'm going to show you an easy way to add in tabs and leaders. Let's zoom in on just this text box, and we'll move the paragraph styles out of the way, and let's move this text wrap out of the way, and let's select these lines right here. So how to succeed in a difficult class is on page 1. So I want you on your keyboard to hit tab, then 1. Cyber aware tips also on page 1. Tab and 1. Study time is on page 2, so tab 2. Healthy snacking is on page 3, tab 3. Graduation is page 4, tab 4. And then we're going to go in and select all this text. And we're going to go up to type and tabs. And it's going to lay this line and this ruler right on top of this text box, which is why I wanted you to zoom in. I thought it might make it a little bit easier for you. So we're going to say that we want a right justified tab. So let's click right justified. And then we're going to click in this little medium gray. This is dark gray. This is black right here where the ruler is. This is medium gray. And just see how it gives you that line right there? We're just going to kind of drag the line as close as we can get to the end of the text box and let go. Where it says leader right here, put in a period and just hit enter. And that adds in those tabs and leaders right there. And then you can close that out once you're done. And you can zoom out by doing Command 0 and puts that back in the page. So now this whole page is done. Page 1 is done. Let's save it. And go on to page 2. And all we're going to do is the same thing we just did. We'll turn the originals back on. Let's click on where we put in our headline right there. Header 1, done. And you can see I'm going to need a subheader in here, a subheader in here, a subheader over here, and a subheader over here. And then the very first paragraph has a drop cap. So I'm going to go in my type tool and just put my cursor in the very first paragraph and click drop cap. And that'll add that in. And I'm going to turn off my original real quick so I can see what I'm doing. And your approach matters. That is my subheader. Your environment matters is also a subheader. Schedule matters is a subheader. Learning matters is a subheader. And I need to delete these extra returns. So delete the extra return right here. Delete the extra return right here. Let's delete that extra return. And then I need to go in, again, just like I did on page 1, and remove the bullet points from Microsoft Word and do my own bullet points. So from avoid thinking to the end of about, right before your environment matters, those are going to be the bullet points. And then there's an extra return right here. Keep that one in, but maybe we'll move this one out. All right. That works. And let's just turn on the original Oh, and there was an extra return right here. Good. So page 2, done. Part of page 3, done. All we need to do is let's turn on our originals, turn off our rectangle so we can see what we're doing. Healthy snacking. I believe that is header 2. It is. And let's just manually make it centered. And just bump it down where it needs to go. Select this paragraph because we set it up all by itself. This is a drop cap. And again, this one needs to be just, this is going to be a bullet. That's right. So let's just add the bullets in. Turn off the original for a second. And add the originals back on. And you might just need to expand this one a little bit. Oh, and there was an extra return at the end. Just get rid of that extra return. Perfect. Now just turn the rectangles on. So at this point, you should only have layer 1 and rectangles on. Let's save it. The entire newsletter is done. So we're going to package it. File. Package. It's going to say that our links are RGB. That's okay for right now. And let's click the package button. Now make sure you put it in the right space. Include a PDF file. High quality print is fine because it doesn't have a bleed. And click on the package button and OK. Now, one of the things you should get in the habit of is double checking your PDF before you submit it. Just make sure everything looks right. So let's find, here's my assignment 4 folder, open it up. There should be an INDD file, an IDML file, and a PDF file. Let me just open up that PDF file and check things out. This is how you can tell if you've forgotten to turn off a layer or forgotten to turn on a layer. So here we go. Here is our entire finished newsletter. Let's get back out of the folder. You want to select the entire folder itself. And again, either control click if you don't have a 2-button mouse, or right click and compress it to make a zip folder. And you're going to submit this zip folder. And if you do not have assignment 3 done, submit this in both the section for assignment 3 and the section for assignment 4. You can submit it in both places and you will be all set for weeks 3 and 4 in DES 105. All right, thanks guys for those of you who were able to make it today.